Ever get that feeling like, wow, where did the time go?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Yeah, it's like 1 minute you're doing something and the next like years have gone by.
Totally.
But what if in all that time, in those years, there's all these like valuable experiences we've had that we're just not really seeing?
Hmm.
That's what we're looking at today in this deep dive.
Okay, cool.
We've got this article called Pasted Text, and it says that there's basically like hidden gold in our past,
Interesting.
even in like the stuff we think of as failures.
Huh. That is interesting.
Yeah, so like even the things that we think went wrong, even the things that didn't really work out the way we wanted,
Right.
there's something in there that's actually valuable.
I mean, it makes sense when you think about it, right?
Yeah.
We all have our own unique story, our
Yeah.
own path, and that's like a huge asset. It's what makes you you.
I love that.
Yeah.
Instead of comparing ourselves to other people and where they're at,
Right.
we should be like celebrating what makes us different,
Absolutely.
what makes our path unique.
100%.
But okay, so let's say we buy that, right?
Okay.
How do we actually start to see that?
Yeah.
How do we start to see our experiences, even the messy ones,
Right.
as something that is valuable?
Well, it's so easy to get caught up in comparing ourselves to others,
Oh, yeah.
especially these days with social media.
Totally.
Everyone's always showing the best curated versions of themselves.
Exactly.
But what if instead of looking at what we haven't done or what other people are doing, we look at like what
Yeah.
we have done
Yeah.
and all of those little moments, the challenges, the times we had to like make a detour, the quote unquote failures,
Yeah.
and we start to see those as like building blocks.
That's a good point.
Yeah, like steps on the path.
Right. Because if you think about it, even those detours, they still got you to where you are now.
Exactly.
It's like that story that the author of the article tells about feeling lost in their 20s.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
So they were traveling all over the place, no idea what they wanted to do with their life.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, it felt like a total waste of time.
Right, like I'm just wandering around.
Yeah, exactly. But guess what?
Yeah.
That whole experience of just traveling and not knowing what was next ended up becoming the basis for their entire career.
Wow.
They're a content creator now,
Right.
and all of that like uncertainty turned into opportunity.
That is so cool. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Oh, totally.
That feeling of, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Especially when you look around and it seems like everybody else has got it all figured out.
totally. Like everyone else knows exactly what they're doing,
Right.
but I'm just here like a mess.
But that uncertainty, that like not knowing,
Yeah,
that's where the magic happens.
really.
Yeah, it forces you to be creative, to think outside the box, to figure out who you are and what you can actually do.
So it's like those times in our lives that we think of as wasted time
Yeah.
might actually be like the key to something amazing.
It's like those times are full of possibility because you don't know what's going to happen.
Okay, so we're starting to see the value of those experiences.
Yeah.
But it's one thing to like see that value for ourselves.
Right.
It's another thing entirely to actually share those experiences with other people.
You're telling me I'm not very good at that?
Well, and the author of the article talks about how when they started being more open and vulnerable
Yeah.
and sharing their experiences in an authentic way, it created all these connections they never would have expected.
Huh.
And even some business opportunities came out of it.
Wow.
So it's really about the power of storytelling
Yeah.
and being vulnerable.
And being real.
Yeah.
Like people connect with that.
Right. It's like that saying your mess is your message.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that one.
But let's be real. Self-doubt is a big thing.
Huge. Yeah.
We might think, okay, I've got some cool experiences.
Right.
But then that little voice in our head pops up and is like,
Yeah.
who are you to think that anyone cares about your story?
Oh, all the time.
Right?
It's so easy to downplay our own expertise, especially if it didn't come from like a straight line to success.
Right. It's like, oh, well, I didn't go to school for this, or
Yeah.
I didn't, follow the traditional path.
Exactly.
So I must not be an expert.
But think about it.
Yeah.
Who do you find more relatable?
Okay. True.
Someone who's always had everything easy,
Yeah.
or someone who's had to overcome some stuff and learn some lessons along the way?
Definitely the person who's been through some stuff.
Yay.
They're way more interesting.
Exactly.
They've got the battle scars to prove it.
They've got the stories.
Yeah.
And those experiences, those failures,
Yeah.
they're not setbacks, they're stepping stones.
Okay. I like that.
Every time something, quote unquote, fails,
Mm-hmm.
it's a chance to learn what doesn't work and try something different.
So like taking that failure and turning it into data.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's do a little exercise right now.
Okay.
Think back to a time when you felt like you failed.
All right.
Now ask yourself, what did you learn from that experience? And could that knowledge help someone else?
That's a good question.
Because those experiences They become like tools in our toolkit.
I like that. Yeah.
Right.
And when we start thinking about how we can use those tools to help other people, that's when things get really interesting.
Yeah. It becomes less about us
Mm-hmm.
and more about how we can be of service.
Right. And the article talks about how when we help others, it often leads to our own growth and success, too.
That's so true. It's like the more we give, the more we get back,
Yeah,
but in ways we couldn't have even imagined.
absolutely.
And, the article mentions a couple of resources.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
There's a workbook and a content creation course.
Cool.
We won't go into detail about them here,
Okay.
but if you're feeling inspired to really dig into this stuff,
Yeah,
they might be worth checking out.
for sure.
So the main thing to remember from all of this,
Yeah.
your past isn't something to be ashamed of.
Right.
It's not something to hide away.
It's valuable.
It's full of wisdom and connection. And it might even be like a gold mine that's just waiting for you to discover it.
So here's one last thing to think about.
Okay.
What's one experience you've had, even a challenging one, that you could reframe as a source of wisdom or inspiration?
That's a good one.
Yeah, take some time to think about that.
Right.
You might be surprised at what you discover.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
This was great.
And until next time, keep digging for that gold.
It's out there.